Hey guys, tonight we're going to quietly tiptoe into the velvet-draped bedrooms of royalty, where crowns gleam, candles flicker, and sometimes, queens fake their pregnancies. Yep, you're not mishearing. This isn't about fairy tale babies or happily ever afters. It's about carefully arranged pillows under silk gowns, nervous courtiers nodding too quickly, and desperate monarchs doing what they must to keep a grip on power. You probably wouldn't survive this world. One whisper, one wrong glance at the queen's stomach, and poof, you're assigned to mucking out stables for the next decade. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop your location and local time in the comments below. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're a court servant, carrying folded linens down a chilly stone hallway. Behind a door to your left, hushed voices debate royal bloodlines. Behind another, someone sobs very quietly. And in the grand chamber ahead, a queen grips her belly and says, loud enough for all to hear, "The child kicked again." Except there's no child. Throughout history, royal women stood at the center of dynastic power. Their bodies weren't entirely their own. They were vessels for producing heirs, stabilizing alliances, and keeping crowns from slipping. A pregnancy didn't just mean a baby. It meant a future, and a very convenient pause on things like annulment, war, or being shipped off to a nunnery. Here's a mainstream fact. Across Europe, queens were expected to produce a male heir as quickly as possible. Failure meant disgrace, rumors, or worse. So faking a pregnancy? That was more than a lie. It was a survival tactic, a placeholder hope. Take Queen Joan I of Naples, for example. After the mysterious death of her first husband, she conveniently announced she was pregnant. Months passed. No baby. Historians still argue whether she ever truly believed it herself or if she just needed time to smooth out the chaos. And the quirky part? Some courts would throw full celebrations before a birth had even happened. Bonfires, church bells, feasts, for a maybe. A possibly imagined kick in the womb, amplified into national joy. In one case, a bishop even wrote a sermon welcoming a royal heir, 2 months before the queen would have been due. Pressure did strange things to people. The queen would be surrounded by whispering ladies-in-waiting, her meals measured, her steps counted. A physician might feel movement where none existed. A servant might swear he heard midnight cries. It became a shared illusion, powered by politics and fear. And still every night, the queen would lie in bed staring at her own stomach, waiting for something, anything, to change. You find yourself walking behind a long procession of candle-bearing monks. The palace is hushed, but buzzing, like a lullaby with tension hiding underneath. The queen is said to be in her final month. The bells have been prepared, the crib polished. The streets outside await a birth that history already knows won't happen. Because tonight, you're in Tudor England, and the queen in question is Mary I. She's resting behind heavy curtains, holding her belly like something precious is truly there. But the truth is quieter and stranger. Mary, daughter of Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon, spent much of her reign trying to re-establish Catholicism in England. But there was something else she wanted even more than religious unity. A child, an heir, a continuation of her bloodline after years of political trauma and familial rejection. When she married Philip of Spain in 1554, everything hinged on a royal pregnancy. So when she missed her period, felt nausea, and noticed her belly growing slightly, everyone believed, or at least pretended to. Here's your mainstream fact. The court prepared for the child's arrival with public prayers, celebrations, and even diplomatic correspondence with other countries. Gifts arrived, names were speculated. Mary secluded herself, as was custom in lying-in chambers, awaiting labor. But labor never came. The months passed. No baby, no explanation. The doctors murmured awkward theories, delayed labor, false signs, perhaps even twins hiding. Mary insisted she still felt movement. But by late summer, the hopeful whispers turned to cold silence. And here's the quirky detail. According to one report, a false cannon salute was prepared the night someone thought the Queen had gone into labor. Fireworks lit the sky. Except, nothing happened. The people outside celebrated a birth that wasn't real, so why fake it? Some historians argue Mary wasn't lying. She may have experienced pseudocyesis, or a phantom pregnancy. It's a rare psychological condition where a person's body mimics pregnancy symptoms without being pregnant at all. The mind, driven by deep desire and stress, triggers hormonal shifts. Bellies swell, periods stop, even fetal kicks are felt. But others say Mary knew. She simply had to buy time for her marriage, for Catholic rule, for a political landscape on shaky ground. And when the truth could no longer be hidden, she claimed she must have miscarried. You step quietly through the Queen's chamber. Her face is pale. She does not weep. But the silence is thick. No royal cradle, no nursemaid, no child. She would never carry again. That phantom child left behind real consequences, the loss of credibility, a weakened marriage, and the public's growing impatience. Mary never recovered politically or emotionally. It's a strange thing. A woman lying in bed, convincing a country of a heartbeat no one can hear. A queen using her own body as political armor. And when the lie fell apart, all that remained was a hush, a closed curtain, and a question that still floats through the dusty halls of history. Did she believe it? The floorboards creak beneath your slippers as you tiptoe through a different palace now, far colder, far stranger. It's St. Petersburg in the 1700s, and snow drifts against the palace windows like powdered ghosts. But inside, something even more bizarre is happening. You slip into a chamber lit with blue candlelight. A noblewoman groans from behind a screen. Servants hover. But this isn't just any childbirth, it's a performance, because the empress who claimed to be pregnant isn't the one giving birth at all. Welcome to the scandalous tale of Empress Anna of Russia, one of history's boldest baby-based deceptions. Anna Ivanovna ruled with flair. She had a flair for pageantry, cruelty, and drama. And in 1737, she shocked her court by announcing that a certain noblewoman, Maria Kantemir, was pregnant with a child who would be raised as Anna's own heir. Not biologically hers, of course. But shh. Technicalities bore the empire. Here's your mainstream historical fact. In this elaborate scheme, Empress Anna reportedly staged the entire pregnancy, selecting the surrogate, choosing the attendants, and planning the birth, as if it were her personal spectacle. The baby would be handed to her instantly, raised as royalty, and treated as dynastically legitimate. And now for the fringe weirdness. She housed the pregnant woman in a specially designed chamber, far from public eyes, and crafted a story that the baby was born directly to her, a royal delivery behind royal curtains, with Anna emerging triumphant and child in arms. Court officials bowed. The cradle was embroidered. Political enemies blinked, but did not dare challenge her. Historians still argue whether Anna believed she could truly pass off the child without controversy, or whether it was just a power play to prove no one could question her rule. After all, she once forced nobles to ice skate in wedding gowns during a blizzard. This was a woman who reveled in theatrical dominance. You creep a little closer now, peeking around the edge of the chamber. The surrogate is pale and exhausted. The newborn wails, and in the next room, Anna lifts the child high, her smile gleaming in candlelight. You can almost hear her whisper, "Now let's see them challenge this." But what happened next? The child, named Ivan VI, was indeed declared her heir. He was placed on the throne as an infant, ruled briefly, and was later imprisoned for most of his life. All from a plan born in deception and desperation. It's a surreal image, isn't it? A ruler rewriting lineage not with swords or laws, but with a staged delivery. It wasn't biology that made you royal in that moment. It was boldness, silence, and enough candlelight to hide the truth. And still, you wonder, In the quiet between snowfalls and whispers, how many others watched from the shadows, clutching secrets of their own? The night deepens as you drift through one last castle, this one quieter, echoing with the creaks of old wooden beams and the barely there shuffle of velvet slippers. You pass portraits of queens with soft eyes and stiff smiles, their painted bellies all perfectly round. But tonight, you're not admiring art. You're piecing together a pattern, a thread of desperation stitched into centuries of royal life. Because behind every faked pregnancy, there wasn't always scandal. Sometimes there was simply fear, sometimes there was loss, and sometimes there was hope that became too fragile to let go of. You sit near the hearth now, watching a queen hold her breath as a physician gently presses her belly. The fire crackles, the silence is unbearable. She nods, as if to say, "Yes, I feel it too." And the doctor, trained to serve power more than truth, simply agrees. In some cases, the queen may have genuinely believed it. Phantom pregnancies were not rare among royal women. The blend of intense pressure, grief from miscarriages, and the overwhelming expectation to produce heirs could play tricks on the body and the mind. Historians still argue whether many of these women were schemers or victims of their own biology. You might be surprised to know that even into the 19th century, some royal consorts would pretend they were pregnant to avoid annulments or exile. It bought them time. In one lesser-known case, a noblewoman faked multiple pregnancies in a desperate bid to retain her dowry and castle. And here's the strange tidbit. In some courts, doctors would offer pregnancy potions made of herbs and bizarre animal parts, not to induce conception, but to prolong the illusion. As long as the queen felt pregnant, the kingdom could wait a little longer for a miracle. It all becomes a quiet performance. Cushions beneath corsets, strategically timed exits from court dinners, guards posted near chambers with strict instructions not to disturb, and in the background, a kingdom holding its breath. You remember Mary's imagined labor, Anna's stolen heir, and all the nameless women in powdered wigs and pearl tiaras who whispered into pillows, "Maybe this time it's real." Because sometimes, a lie isn't born from malice, but from unbearable hope. You tiptoe back through the gallery, the portraits watching you go. You wonder how many of them are smiling at secrets that were never uncovered, and how many of them, like Mary, died still waiting for a child who never arrived. The truth is, these women weren't just queens. They were symbols, and symbols don't get the luxury of failure. So when reality didn't cooperate, they made one up. And history? History just tilted its head politely and nodded along. So now, as candlelight flickers low and palace corridors stretch into the hush of sleep, you exhale slowly. You've walked through false labors, quiet conspiracies, and royal hearts that bent truth to buy time. Whatever their reasons, power, protection, or peace, these queens left behind more than scandal. They left behind aching silences, unfinished lullabies, and questions whispered through the centuries. You close the chamber door behind you. The air is still. Somewhere, a cradle remains empty. But the story, like all stories, softly settles. And you're free to rest now. Let the echoes fade. Let the history hush.